The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the crystalline amphitheater, their varied forms creating a cacophony of clicking, chittering, and warbling that the universal translators struggled to parse. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Chen Wei, the last human representative, her expression carved from stone. "You cannot be serious," hissed Counselor Vexithara, her serpentine form coiled in agitation. "Humanity has been part of this council for 3 centuries. You are one of the founding species of the modern galactic order." Chen's dark eyes swept across the assembled delegates. "And in those 3 centuries, how many times have human proposals been voted down? How many times have our warnings been dismissed as primitive paranoia or violent overreaction?" The Altarian delegate, Zeftos, spread his 4 arms in what humans had learned was a gesture of dismissal. "Your species sees conflict where none exists. The Void Seekers were contained. 20 billion souls on Kepler 442b would disagree," Chen interrupted, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "If they weren't ash floating in space because the Council insisted on diplomatic solutions while the Seekers harvested entire systems." A uncomfortable silence fell over the assembly. The Kepler incident remained a sore point for many species. The humans had demanded immediate military action when the first reports of the Void Seekers reached the Council chambers. Instead, the Assembly had voted for a measured diplomatic approach, sending envoys to establish communication. The envoys never returned. Neither did anyone else from 3-star systems. The Terran Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Chen announced, her words echoing in the vast chamber. "Effective immediately. Humanity will no longer recognize Council authority over human space or human interests." Counselor Mordith of the Hegemony rose from his crystalline seat, his massive form casting shadows across the floor. "You would abandon millennia of interstellar law, the peace we have built?" Chen's laugh was bitter. "Peace? Tell that to the Rigel colonies. Tell that to the miners of Proxima Station. Every time humanity faced a threat, we stood alone while the Council debated and deliberated." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We're done waiting for permission to defend ourselves." The Quanthari representative, her voice a melodic whisper, asked, "What of the trade agreements? The technology exchanges? Humanity benefits greatly from Council membership." "Humanity," Chen replied slowly, "will manage just fine." What the Council members didn't know, what they had consistently failed to understand despite 3 centuries of evidence, was that humanity had never stopped preparing for the worst. While other species focused on the luxuries of peace, humans had quietly built redundancies, backups, and contingencies for every system they touched. The Sol system's defensive grid wasn't just impressive by human standards. It was a marvel that could make entire Council fleets pause. Human colonies didn't just trade with alien species, they had developed completely independent supply chains and manufacturing capabilities. Human scientists hadn't just participated in joint research projects. They had always maintained separate, purely human research programs. As Chen spoke, across human space, a massive logistical operation was already in motion. Trade ships were being recalled. Diplomatic staff were packing their belongings. Most importantly, the vast network of human intelligence operatives embedded throughout Council space were beginning to extract decades of carefully gathered information. "The galaxy is vast," Chen continued, watching the growing distress on alien faces around her. "Humanity controls less than 2% of known space. We're sure the remaining 98% can maintain galactic peace without us." What she didn't say, what no human would ever admit to these naive idealists, was that humanity's 2% included the most strategically valuable systems in the galaxy. The main hyperspace routes between the inner and outer rim territories all pass through human checkpoints. The rare Earth elements essential for modern starship construction came primarily from human mining operations, and the quantum communication networks that held the galaxy together, largely built and maintained by human engineers. As realization dawned on the council members, Vexthara's voice rose to a near shriek. "You cannot simply leave. The economic disruption alone should have been considered," Chen finished, before dismissing human concerns for the 400th time. She gathered her formal robes and turned toward the exit. "The Terran Federation wishes the Galactic Council well in its future endeavors." Behind her, the chamber erupted into pandemonium. Emergency motions were called. Threats were made. Promises of reform were shouted across the din. But Chen didn't stop walking. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy learned what it meant to exist without humanity's quiet competence. Hyperspace routes that had operated flawlessly for centuries suddenly required extensive detours. Supply chains that had seemed automatic began to break down. The communication delays between sectors, previously measured in hours, stretched to days. Some species tried aggression, sending fleets toward human space only to discover that humanity's defensive installations were far more formidable than anyone had imagined. Others attempted negotiation, offering concessions and reforms, but found human diplomatic channels mysteriously unavailable. The proud Galactic Council, which had governed 1,000 worlds with wisdom and justice, suddenly found itself struggling to maintain basic order without the steady, reliable presence of humanity keeping the machinery of civilization running smoothly. And in human space, Ambassador Chen Wei allowed herself a small smile as she read the daily reports. Perhaps now the galaxy would learn that some species didn't ask for respect. They simply earned it, one competent action at a time. The galaxy had shaken humanity off like an unwanted burden. Now it would discover exactly how much weight that burden had been carrying,